Starting this week, we're going to start a series called Resurrect. Resurrect. And based on the fact that Jesus lives, the church needs to get busy bringing some stuff back. Okay? Resurrecting some stuff. Okay? We have work to do. Jesus lives. He's not dead. We've got work to do. And so we're going to look at a few things for the next few weeks about this subject. And today we're going to talk about how we need to resurrect hope. We need to resurrect hope. Okay? We got to bring it back. There's a lot of despair in our world, and we've got to bring it back. And the way that we're going to bring it back is to be reminded of the hope that we have. There have been various times throughout my life in which God has had to remind me of just how blessed I am. Okay? I am let's just say I'm a complainer by nature. Okay? You may not have known that about me. Maybe you haven't spent more than 5 minutes with me, or else you would know that about me. I'm a complainer. I'm a complainer by nature. I've always been that way, even as a child, especially as a child. I guess it's gotten better as I've gotten older. But I recall one time my dad went for a run, and he wanted me to go with him, and obviously I couldn't keep up with him. I was like 7 or 8. I couldn't keep up with him, and so he made me ride my bike while he ran. Okay? And I cried the whole way. Whined, complained, moaned, and groaned. I cried the entire way riding my bike while my dad had to run. And he was probably faster than me while I was riding my bike. I mean, things like this happen all the time in my life. I'm a complainer by nature. And God is adept at showing you almost right after you complain about something you probably shouldn't complain about. He's good at it. He's good at it. Oh, you're going to complain about this? Well, let me show you someone else and their circumstance. God does that very well. He does that very often. I want us to think about the things that we are complaining about today. The things that honestly are worthy of complaining about. The things that are bad. We have the 24-hour news cycle, the constant chirping of negative talking heads, the glorification of victimhood, the prevalence of reporting the world's dirty laundry. We are well aware of all the bad stuff going on in our world, and it is easy to complain. I think probably today it's easier to complain than any other time in history because we know about all the bad stuff. It's just right there in our face. And there's a lot of it. Look at the various wars going on in our world. Look at the price of gas, the cost of goods, the division of ideologies in our world, the rural-urban divide in our world, the racial divides in our world. Look at the lack of values that people have, the destruction of the family, the brazenness of politicians, and the dearth of genuine compassion toward others outside of our comfort zone, culture, or nationality. You know as well as I do that I could stand here and I could talk about things all morning. All the stuff that's going on in our world, all the bad stuff. We could talk about it all day. This negativity that inundates us requires two things of us. It requires two things of us. As Christians, we need to be reminded of the hope we have. Okay? I mean, we spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday just being flooded by negativity. We do. Just garbage. All week long. And on Sunday, we need to be reminded of the hope we have. So that on Monday, we know the hope that we have. Tuesday, we know our hope. Wednesday, we know our hope. Thursday, and so on and so forth. As Christians, we need to be reminded of the hope we have. That's number one. And number two, the world needs to be told of the hope they can have. The world needs to be told of the hope that they can have. This world needs something. It needs some light at the end of the tunnel. It needs something positive. It needs something to hold on to. So this morning I want us to take a look at one of the most hopeful passages in the Bible and see if we can resurrect hope in our hearts and in the hearts of those around us. If you have your Bibles today, I want to ask you to turn them to the book of 1 Peter. 1 Peter chapter 1. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. 1 Peter 1, verse 3. And what we're going to read here is that you are born again to a living hope. You are born again to a living hope. This is a truth. This is not a guess. This is not a theory. This is a truth. This is a law for the Christian. You are born again to a living hope. I want you to listen to verses 3 through 5. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to His great mercy, He has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you, who by God's power are being guarded through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. You have been born again. Jesus talked about this in John chapter 3, verses 3 through 5. He says, unless you are born of the water and the Spirit, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. You are born again. If you come to God for a spiritual birth, if you come to God in faith and are baptized into Christ and rise to walk in newness of life, you are born again. And if you are born again, you have been born again to a living hope. A living hope. In other words, your hope is not dead. Your hope is not dead. Okay? You are not like some military leader who is the hope of their nation who can die and not come back. Your hope is not dead. Jesus is not in a grave somewhere. He's not in the ground somewhere. He's alive. He's living. This very day, this very minute, this very second, He is alive. You have a living hope because He was raised from the dead. He lives. And this text tells us that He lives and He guarantees a share in His inheritance that He is keeping safe in heaven for you. That is a living hope. We were talking about this in my Bible class this morning. We were talking about inheritance. And I think that probably the significance of biblical inheritance is lost on us because so many people today are not going to really receive an inheritance. Okay? I mean, there's just nothing left. Okay? There's nothing to receive. I mean, I love my parents. I got one that doesn't have it, and I got one that's spinning it as fast as she can. Okay? And there's nothing there. There's nothing there. But I have a better inheritance. I have a better inheritance. I have an inheritance that does not get wasted. It does not become defiled. It does not fade away. It is not something that I can't take with me. It is something that I will always have because it is kept in heaven. I have an inheritance in heaven with God, with Jesus, that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading. That's what I have. If you've known me for very long, you know that one of my favorite movies of all time is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I could watch that movie anytime. My kids have never seen it yet because they're not old enough, because it's not for them just yet. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off has a character in it named Cameron Fry. Cameron is Ferris's best friend. And Cameron is stressed out because Cameron has a dad who is crazy. We'll just put it that way. He has a dad who is crazy. And his dad loves his car more than he loves Cameron. And by the end of the movie, I don't want to spoil it for you, but by the end of the movie, Cameron cares so little about things that he actually destroys his dad's car because he cares about it more than he cares about Cameron. To his dad, the car was everything. But it could be destroyed. And it was destroyed. Friends, whatever it is that we hold on to, that we have to have, that we are so worried about, that we care so much about, that we put all our love and hopes and dreams into, it does not last. It will perish. And we need to be reminded of our eternal inheritance. This is our living hope, that we have an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you. But our hope is not just living because of that. It is living because Jesus lives and guards our souls so that we can be saved in His return. That the text says, who by God's power are being guarded through faith for salvation, ready to be revealed in the last time. So I want you to think about this. Jesus is doing two things to ensure our living hope. He is keeping our inheritance ready for us in heaven. Okay? He's not spending it. He's not wasting it. He's not burning it. He's not getting rid of it. He is keeping it in heaven for us, number one. But number two, He is keeping us and caring for us so that we can be sure that we will receive the inheritance. I want you to imagine that you had a benefactor that not only preserved an inheritance for you, but ensured that you yourself were protected and cared for so that you can one day receive the inheritance. He's not just keeping the inheritance, He's protecting you so that you can grow up and receive the inheritance, so you don't die prematurely, so something doesn't happen to you. That is what Jesus is doing for us. He is protecting our inheritance, and He is protecting the inheritor. And that is why you have a living hope. You have a living hope because your hope is not dead. He lives. You are born again to a living hope. And number two, you're born again to a living hope so that you can endure the trials of life. You're born again to a living hope so that you can endure the trials of life. I want you to notice 1 Peter 1, verses 6 and 7. Verses 6 and 7. In this you rejoice, though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been grieved by various trials, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Knowing that we have this hope in our born-again relationship with Christ, the endurance of trials can be seen in a new light. You can see them as occasions to get stronger, to purify, and to make you holy. Our trials, then, are not catastrophes that we must try to avoid. Let me repeat that. Our trials are not catastrophes that we must try to avoid, but rather, they are crucibles. They are crucibles in which we are made better and more holy, even to the point of receiving praise, glory, and honor. Our trials, they're not catastrophes, they're crucibles that make us better and stronger and purer. And you can truly believe this and see this if you have the living hope. If you have the living hope that says there's inheritance in heaven for me, and that God is keeping it and protecting it, and that God is keeping my soul and protecting my soul so that I can one day have it, And that no matter what happens on this earth, I have that because of the resurrection of Jesus, because I know I'm going to be raised from the dead. If you have that living hope, then you can face any trial because you can see it in a new light. It is not a catastrophe. It is a crucible. This will make me better. This will make me more faithful. This will make me more patient. This will make me more holy. The trial that these people to whom Peter is writing were experiencing was they were kicked from their homes. The Roman government said, "Get out." And they were scattered every which way. Now, I doubt that your trial is that. I don't know, maybe some of you have been evicted, and that really is not fun and would stink. But your trial is something. There is something going on in your life. There is some sort of difficulty going on in your life. And I want you to see this morning that if you have the living hope in Jesus Christ, if you have been born again to a living hope, that trial is something that will go away. And that will be fixed. And that will make you better and stronger. Number 3, thing that we need to be reminded of. We are born again to a living hope so that we can face the trials of this life. And so that we can love, believe in, and rejoice in the invisible God. So that we can love, believe in, and rejoice in the invisible God. I want you to notice 1 Peter 1, 8 and 9. 1 Peter 1, 8 and 9. It says this, "Though you have not seen him, you love him. Though you do not now see him, you believe in him and rejoice with joy that is inexpressible and filled with glory, obtaining the outcome of your faith, the salvation of your souls." Our hope and faith in Christ and His merciful work for us call us to love and believe in and rejoice in God, even though He is currently invisible to us. This is the call. Okay? If you have the living hope in Christ and you are able to face the trials, we must not forget that we are being called to love, believe in, and rejoice in Jesus. Okay? We don't just have this living hope for us to sit around and be pew potatoes. I knew a guy who wrote a book called Pew Potatoes one time. I don't even know if it's in print anymore. I mean, it was like I don't even think it had a publisher. I think he printed it himself. He wrote a book called Pew Potatoes. In other words, there's a bunch of people in church who come and sit in a pew, and they're pew potatoes. They don't do anything else but come and sit in a pew. He didn't call us to be pew potatoes. He called us to be thankful for the living hope that we have in Jesus and to love, believe in, and rejoice in Him. That's what He called us to. We do not want to fall short of God's high calling and not receive our inheritance, so we must press on toward Christ and His salvation of our souls. We must not forget. And this is the sort of hope that the world needs right now. This is the sort of hope that the world needs right now. It is time that we stepped up and resurrected hope. It is time that we stepped up and resurrected hope. Hey, there is so much junk going on in our world right now. There needs to be a source of light, a source of hope. There needs to be something good coming out in the world. There needs to be this. And it needs to be us. It needs to be us. This hope must be in the church. I mean, if you don't get any point today, get this point. This hope must be in the church. We cannot be like everybody else, despairing without hope. When taxes rise and benefits crumble, we should be the most hopeful because we know we've been born again to a living hope. I'll never forget this. In 2008, you remember 2008 when everything went bad Y'all remember that? Okay, I was 2008. I just graduated high school. Okay, but I still remember it. I still remember it. 2008. I remember a family member of mine. He lost his whole retirement. It just tanked. And I remember, it being kind of a sad thing, right? It was really sad. But I do not remember him complaining. I don't remember him freaking out. I don't remember him, anything, happening to him. I don't remember any kind of catastrophic thing. He went on and he lived life. He went on and he lived life. When wars ravage and safety erodes, we should be the most helpful because we know we've been born again to a living hope. When sickness strikes and health fails, we should be the most hopeful because we know we've been born again to a living hope. When hospitality and generosity become non-existent, we should be the most loving because we know we've been born again to a living hope. When atheism and agnosticism try to plant seeds of doubt in our minds, we should be those who maintain their belief because we've been born again to a living hope. When sadness, depression, and anxiety run rampant in our world, we should be the most joyful because we've been born again to a living hope. The world needs hope, and we need to be leading the charge. We need to be leading the charge. This must be in the church. This hope must be in the church so this hope can spread to the world. This hope must be in the church so this hope can spread to the world. Peter, later in this letter, in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15, he says this, "But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect." What this verse is saying to me is that we need to be so hopeful in a time of despair, in a time of evil, in a time of sadness, in a time of anxiety. We need to be so hopeful that people come and they look at us and they say, "What? Why? Why are you on top of the world right now? Why are you still having children even though the rest of the world says we shouldn't be having kids in a world like this? Why are you happy and excited and joyful and content in a world that says you've got to grab and grab and get and get and get?" Why? It should be so evident to the people around us that we get an opportunity to say, "Well, this is why. Because I have a living hope." Look, I realize not everybody is like this. I know Dean Itzen is like this. Okay? All right? We all need to be like Dean, we need to be golden retrievers, okay? That's what our good brother Dean Itzen is. We need to be people that just exude joyfulness and hope. Not fake. We don't need to be fake. Don't fake it or anything like that. Be genuine. But we need to be people that just, it is apparent that something is in our lives that may not be in everybody else's. And that is the living hope that Jesus Christ brings. I want you to try this, okay? I want you to try this. How many of you are going to go to a grocery store this week? Probably all of us, right? Okay? All right? I want you to go through the line, the little checkout line. If you do the self-checkout, I guess it's going to be a little bit different, but there's still people over there. But I want you, if you go through to the grocery store and you go through the line where she's scanning your groceries, I want you to be the kindest, happiest, gentlest person that cashier has ever seen. I'm talking I want you to smile. I want you to be kind and compliment them. All right? And I want you to see if maybe you can have an effect on a person like that. I want you to see if you can do that. Now, take that idea and extrapolate it. I mean, if you go to work and you're typically sour and dour, and you go to work on Monday and you're like, feeling it, right? Living for Jesus. That's going to make people talk. This is what we have to do. The church needs to be leading the way in the hope, the living hope of Jesus Christ. And so I say this to you in conclusion this morning. If you have let the world trample on your hope, this invitation is for you. Okay? If you've let the world trample on your hope, this invitation is for you. I want to sit down and I want to pray for you. And I want this church to pray for you. Because you know that you have the living hope in Jesus Christ. You know that no matter what is going on, it's going to be okay. You know that because you've been born again to a living hope. This invitation is for you. If you have no hope, if you have no hope and would like to experience the wonderful things we've just read about, this invitation is for you. You could be born again right now, today. We can do it. I want you to listen to the words of Jesus in John 16:33. It's perhaps the most encouraging verse in the Bible. It's encouraging because it does not deny the bad things in the world. Rather, it offers the solution to the bad things in the world. We don't deny the bad stuff. Okay? We don't just ignore it and say it's not there. No, we recognize that there is a fix to it, a solution to it, a hope for it. Listen to John 16:33 as we conclude. I have said these things to you, Jesus says, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation. But take heart. I have overcome the world. If this invitation is for you this morning, if you need to resurrect hope in your life, if you need to resurrect hope in someone else's life, if this invitation is for you this morning, don't hesitate. We're going to sing a song. Come sit on one of these pews and talk to me. Talk to one of our elders in the back if you don't want to walk up here. Talk to me privately someday this week. Come now as we stand and as we sing.